And welcome to Technology Tap. I'm Professor J-Rod. In this episode, finding the weak spots, vulnerability management for real people. Let's tap in. Welcome back to Technology Tap, the show where we bridge everyday life and cybersecurity. I'm your host, Professor J-Rod, and today we're going hunting for weak spots. Every business, every nonprofit, every home network has them. The forgotten laptop in the back office, the old Wi-Fi router, the spreadsheet that shouldn't be public, or like that movie War Games, that phone number that never got disconnected. In cybersecurity, that's what we call vulnerabilities. The cracks attackers look for before breaking in. So grab your notebook and maybe a cup of coffee, and let's learn how small organizations and ordinary users can manage vulnerabilities just like the big leagues do. The hidden cracks. Picture a small auto repair shop. They use an ancient Windows 7 desktop to print invoices. One morning, every file name ends with .locked. The screen reads, "Pay $600 in Bitcoin to restore your data." That's ransomware, and it's a symptom of poor vulnerability management. Operating system vulnerabilities. An old operating system stopped receiving patches. Once Microsoft ends support, which it just did for Windows 10, every newly discovered bug becomes a backdoor that never locks again. For big companies, patching is a routine. For mom and pop stores, updates feel risky. What if it breaks my software? But not updating is worse. Legacy and EOL systems. A community clinic is still running a Windows XP radiology viewer can't patch. Solution: isolate it. Put it on its own VLANs, disconnect the internet access, and control who can touch it. Legacy doesn't have to be vulnerable. It just needs boundaries. Firmware and virtualization. That $50 home router bought 5 years ago, its firmware likely has known exploits. Always check vendor support pages. If none exists, replace it. Or what you can do is call your ISP saying that your packets are dropping, that every time you connect to the internet, it drops, and they'll send you a new router for free. Virtualization too isn't immune. Misconfigured hypervisor leak memory or credentials between guest VMs. Zero-day vulnerabilities. A 0-day is a flaw discovered by criminals before the vendor knows it exists. In 2021, a small accounting firm were hit via 0-day in their remote desktop gateways because someone left the service open to the internet with default credentials. 0-day reminds us that security is a race. We can't patch what we don't know, but we can prepare with segmentation, logging, and backups. Misconfiguration and human error. Let's visit a nonprofit youth center. They share documents in Google Drive and want transparency. One volunteer clicks. Anyone with the link can view. Weeks later, donor information surfaces on a local Facebook group. That's cloud misconfiguration. No hacker genius is required. Just click in the wrong menu. Default settings. Printers, cameras, routers ship with admin password as the default login. Attackers scan the internet looking for them. Change default always. Cryptographic slip-ups. A small law firm upholds client contracts to a site using an outdated SHA-1 encryption. Encryption is only as strong as its algorithm. Decommission weak ciphers and rotate keys regularly. Rooting and jailbreaking. At a local phone repair shop, a tech roots Android phones to speed them up. Rooting disables security layers, inviting spyware. Explain to staff Why convenience should never outweigh control. Plus, it voids the warranty on it. Misconfigurations aren't flashy, but they cause more breaches than 0 days ever will. Applications and cloud vulnerabilities. Next stop, a family-owned gym with an online sign-up. A member reports weird pop-ups. The web developer finds drop table members in the log. Classic SQL injection. Common app bugs, race conditions. 2 users booking the same yoga slot simultaneously. Both confirm. Attacker exploits timing like that to manipulate data. Buffer overflow. Too much input crashes the process. Malware rides the overflow to execute code. Malicious updates. An attacker compromises a plugin server. Everyone who updates downloads the Trojan. Web vulnerabilities. Cross-site scripting. Malicious code in a comment field steals cookies. CSRF. Users tricked into clicking links that change settings. Teach clients. Validate input, sanitize output, patch plugins. Cloud example. A local bakery uses a free cloud backup. The vendor goes bankrupt and deletes all data after 30 days. Always read the SLA, enable MFA, as multi-factor authentication, SOA service level agreement, and encrypt before uploading. Supply chain risk. A neighborhood MSP installs a remote management tool. Months later, attackers exploit that vendor's updated server. Not every customer inherits the infection. Vet suppliers. Request software bill or materials list. Scanning the surface. How do we find these issues before bad actors do? Vulnerability scanner. A local library runs OpenVAS weekly. It reports outdated Apache modules and missing patches. Credential scan logs in for details. Non-credential shows what outsider sees. Schedule both. Threat feeds. Think of a threat feed like a neighborhood watch. Sites such as IBM X-Force or abuse.ch publish new attack signatures. Every small IT team can subscribe to free feeds or use built-in tools like Microsoft Defender Threat Intel. Deep and dark web awareness. The deep web includes private databases. The dark web requires Tor. Analysts monitor it for leaked credentials. For instance, that coffee shop loyalty app that stores passwords in plain text. Vulnerability identification isn't paranoia, it's maintenance, like checking tire pressure before a road trip. Testing and validation. Now we test the defenses. Penetration testing. Community college often hosts free pen testers for local nonprofits. Students, under supervision, run gray box tests. They know partial info and simulate realistic attacks. Black box is outsider, white box is full access. Bug bounties. A regional credit union offers gift cards for responsibly reported flaws. Bug bounties turn curiosity into collaboration instead of crime. There's a story about a kid for Apple FaceTime. Look it up. I tell the story in my classroom where he found a bug and he ended up getting a bounty from Apple. Auditing. Quarterly audits ensure policy match reality. Are firewalls rules undocumented? Are admin counts still active after resignation? Testing isn't about blame. It's about learning before the adversary does. Analysis and remediation. Discover, analyze, fix, verify, repeat. CVE and CVSS. Every public flaw gets a CVE ID and a CVSS score. Example, a router flaw with a CVSS of 9.8 is critical. Prioritized by risk and business impact, not fear. False positives or negatives, a scanner flags an OSMB port, but it's already blocked by a firewall. That's a false positive. Or another misconfigured NAS, that's a false negative. Cross-check logs, trust but verify. Remediation steps, patch or upgrade. If not possible, segment or apply compensating controls, or document exceptions, or 4, rescan and confirm closure. At a local daycare, patching breaks attendance software. They roll back, contact the vendor, apply the patch once fixed, demonstrating smart risk management. All right, now it's time for the questions. I have 4 multiple choice questions, CompTIA style multiple choice questions. I will read each one, then I'll give you the 4 choices, read it again, 4 choices again, give you 5 seconds. Hopefully you get 4 out of 4. Question 1. Which of the following best describes a zero-day vulnerability? A flaw that has a vendor patch available but isn't installed. B, a flaw unknown to the vendor with no fix yet released. C, a misconfiguration in cloud storage permissions. Or D, an outdated encryption protocol. I'll read it again. Which of the following best describes a zero-day vulnerability? A flaw that has a vendor patch available but isn't installed. B, a flaw unknown to the vendor with no fix yet released. C, a misconfiguration in cloud storage permission. Or D, an outdated encryption protocol. I'll give you 5 seconds to think about it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The answer is B. A flaw unknown to the vendor with no fix yet released. A 0-day is exploited before the vendor can issue a patch, leaving 0 days to respond. Now, a 0-day is very dangerous, and this is one of those things that you have to monitor what's going on the internet, right? Because if there's a 0-day and there's a patch release for the 0-day, then you quickly have to install it, because if not, you're vulnerable. This happens a lot with phones, guys, and there's a lot of people, I know because my students tell me, that do not like to update their phones. They have this thing where, oh, if I update my phone, my battery's going to die, blah, 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 blah. Okay, do what you want, but you are leaving yourself possibly exposed to a compromise. And you don't want that. And if you want to, especially if you want to be cybersecurity, you have to be in that mindset of update. What Apple likes to do is, and read it the next time it comes up with an update. It doesn't have to be an emergency update. It could be like a regular update. It'll say, we have a new emojis out plus some security updates. They say that because they tease you with the emoji, but they really want you to install the security updates. And there's times where you see on the news where they'll say, oh, Apple or Chrome or Windows, I've seen this in the last 2-3 years, needs you to update right away. I think the last one was Apple, and then the time before that was Chrome. I think during COVID maybe, where they had a flaw, they discovered a flaw, a 0-day, and then they released a patch, and they were telling everybody to update their Chrome like that day. So, those are things that you as a cybersecurity person, student, have to pay attention to. And, don't waste time. Don't have the mindset, well, I'm not going to update my phone because my phone is going to kill my battery. No, even if it kills your battery, you got to update. So, all right, question 2. During a vulnerability scan, an organization discovers several findings that aren't actually exploitable because the affected service is disabled. What does this represent? A false positive. B, a false negative. D, denial alert. Or D, fake news. I'll read it again. During the vulnerability scan, an organization discovers several findings that aren't actually exploitable because the affected service is disabled. What does this represent? A, false news, a false positive. B, false negative. C, benign alert. Or D, false news. I'll give you 5 seconds to think about it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the answer is A, false positive. A scanner incorrectly labeled inactive components as vulnerable. All right. Did we get 2 out of 2 so far? Hopefully we have. Next, a local retailer wants to know which discovered vulnerabilities should be fixed first. Which framework helps rank severely from 0 to 10? A, CVSS, Common Vulnerability Scoring System. B, CVE, Common Vulnerability and Exposures. C, ISO 27001. Or D, PCI DSS. I'll read it again. A local retailer wants to know which discovered vulnerabilities should be fixed first. Which framework helps rank severity from 0 to 10? A, CVSS, Common Vulnerability Scoring System. B, CVE, Common Vulnerability and Exposure. C, ISO 27001. or D, PCI DSS? I'll give you 5 seconds to think about it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, one of the things that you could eliminate right away is PCI DSS because it doesn't say specifically it's credit card. So that one is gone. So you're left with 3. ISO 27001 doesn't fall in this category. So you're left with A and B, and the answer is A. Common vulnerability scoring system quantifies severely so teams can prioritize remediation. All right. Did you get 3 for 3? Let's go 4 for 4. What is the most effective way for a small business to protect against configuration errors in cloud storage? A. Use default settings provided by the vendor. B. Review access control and enable least privilege permission. C. Disable all encryption option. Or D. Share files publicly for transparency. I'll read it again. What is the most effective way for a small business to protect against configuration errors in cloud storage? A. Use default settings provided by the vendor. B. Review access control and enable least privilege permission. C. Disable all encryption options. Or D. Share files publicly for transparency. So what is he trying to do? To protect against configuration errors, right? Obviously, it's not D, right? You're not going to share files publicly for transparency. And it's not C, you're not going to disable all encryption options, right? The keyword is to protect against, right? So you're not going to disable encryption options. You never, ever use the default settings provided by the vendor, right? All the default settings need to be changed, right? Admin password or admin is usually the default username and password. So the answer is B, review access control, enable least privilege permission. Least privilege reviews prevents accidental public exposure of sensitive data. Hopefully you got 4 out of 4 right. If you did, congratulations. That's what's up. You're almost ready to take the Security Plus exam. But let me piggyback on the 0 day, which I think it was important. Now, if I remember the story correctly, there was a kid who had a Fortnite. This is when Fortnite first came out. He was a member of a Fortnite group, and him and his friends, his buddies, created a group FaceTime Fortnite group where they, when they play, they would call each other via FaceTime, right? That's what kids do. I don't know. This is like 10 years ago, maybe less. I was a high school teacher, so it was less than about 6-7 years ago, 8 years ago maybe. And what happened is he called his friend via FaceTime, and then he accidentally called himself. His friend did not pick up the phone, but I think because of that bug that he called himself, if I'm getting the story right, he turned on his friend's mic without his friend realizing that it turned on. So he can hear his friend talking. And this is like a 13-year-old kid, right? This is not a grown adult, 13-year-old kid. He could hear his friend talking, but his friend did not know that his mic was on. You know what kind of security implications that is? Imagine if you're able to do that to a president, member of Congress, anybody, CEO of a major company, right? If you were able to do that to Warren Buffett, right? And you could listen to all his stuff that he's doing, how to make money the way he does, that will be amazing. But it's also a huge security risk. So I think he told his mom, and his mom emailed Apple like a few times. It took quite a few times for them emailing Apple for then Apple to actually respond back. And when they did, the mom said, "Hey, this is what's going on." And they tested it, and they ended up giving the kid, I think they gave him $30,000 for finding that. And I think they set up a college fund for the kid because he was only 13. So that when he goes to college, that money's already paid. Hey, if you're that kid, man, reach out to me, Professor JROD, JROD @gmail.com. I would love to talk to you. about the 0-day thing from Apple back in the day. So yeah, the kid ended up, making some money, and or if you know the kid, if anybody knows the kid. But yeah, he ended up making money. And people, this is stuff, people do this bug bounties for a living. I don't know if there's, if there's do this for a living or they do this as a side hustle. It could be a great side hustle. I don't know if you want to do this for a living, but definitely is a great side hustle for bug bounties. So what did Apple ended up doing? For a while, Apple shut down group FaceTime. They had no choice. Like on the fly, they didn't know how to fix it. So to remediate that, which is a 0-day, that's a 0-day. To remediate that, they disabled group FaceTime for everybody for a bit. And then they fixed it, right? Sent the patch, right? Tested it, sent it to everybody, right? They ask you to install it. And then they turned on group FaceTime. But yeah, that's crazy, right? That he does that. And just from that kid accidentally, calling himself, that's what triggered it. So you got to be careful. And again, guys, when they ask you your phone, Windows, Chrome, whatever it is that you're using, even your smart TV, right? Your Xbox, you gamers, right? You gamers are diligent when it says, hey, we have an update for your Xbox. Oh, you right there. Downloading that and uploading that and installing that patch right away. And when they say, hey, we found a bug in Xbox or PS5 or whatever you're using, you're quick to do that. So be as quick to do this when it's your phone, when it's an app, when it's your computer system, right? If it's Word, Office, right? All these things that we use, all these products that we use, guys. And if you never heard the first episode of this podcast way back in 2020, it's titled Why We Update Our Devices. This is why, right? We need to keep our device updated to protect ourselves from the bad guys, because the bad guys are out there. They don't matter how small or how big your company is. If you are vulnerable, it's not a question of, it's only a question of when they hit it. Now, I know small businesses, a lot of them don't care about cyber because it's an expense and they don't care. But until they get hacked, right? It's like a lot of people don't care about backups until their thing crashes, their hard drive crashes or their server crashes. Then they're like, oh my God, I should have backed up, right? So that's a problem that we still, as IT people, we still need to work on. We still need to, we need to work on that stuff. All right, we covered a lot today. From forgotten routers to community bug bounties. Vulnerability management isn't about paranoia, it's about care. When you patch that system, update that router, or train that intern, you're not just protecting data, you're protecting jobs, paychecks, and a peace of mind, right? And this kind of leads to the thing that I like to tell my students that they don't like me saying it. It's like every now and then you see somebody doing something at work, you have to tell. You have to be a snitch. Even, that's a bad word, but you have to tell, because if you don't, it could affect your job. It could affect you getting a paycheck that week. It could affect you, still having a job. So keep that in mind when you see somebody doing something they're not supposed to. All right. Thanks for listening to Technology Tap. I'm Professor J-Rod. Stay curious, stay cautious, and above all, keep tapping into technology. This has been a presentation of Little Cha-Cha Productions, art by Sarah, music by Joe Kim. We're now part of the Pod Match Network. You can follow me at TikTok at Professor J-Rod, that's J-R-O-D, or you can email me at professorjrod, J-R-O-D, @gmail.com.